Hey everyone, it's Mikki here. You're listening to Wikipedia, and this week on the podcast, I speak to Kelsey Johnston, who's a fitness coach, nutrition mentor, and totally relatable influencer about health, nutrition, fitness, strength training, all of the things. We have a wide-ranging conversation about coaching strong, not skinny, and the mindset challenges that we both come up against with clients and ourselves, and how best to overcome these. I think this is an insightful conversation for anyone who is interested in how to integrate fat loss and building muscle into real life. And I've got to say, Kelsey is one of the most relatable people that I follow on Instagram, and I love it. Kelsey Johnston, known online as Kelsey J Fit, is a certified fitness coach, nutrition mentor, and strength training advocate dedicated to helping people build sustainable habits around strength, food, and lifestyle. She is a certified personal trainer through NASM and has been coaching clients professionally since 22, just recently leaving her job, which she loved, to do this full time. Kelsey's own journey into fitness began after pregnancy, where she gained 80 pounds and faced mobility challenges, persistent pain, and frustration with traditional cardio and restrictive dieting. Her transformation began with strength training and learning to fuel her body properly. And we talk a lot about this, the shifting away from the cycle of dieting and scale obsession to a balanced approach that prioritizes performance, well-being, and consistency. Through her coaching, Kelsey emphasizes chasing strength, eating with intention, and embracing an 80-20 lifestyle that clients can sustain long term. And again, we talk a lot about this. She's passionate about helping people feel strong, pain-free, and confident in what their bodies can do rather than simply how they look. So I have got links as to where you can find Kelsey in the show notes, both over on her website, www.kelseyjfit.com, and also over on Instagram with the same handle, @KelseyJFit. Before we crack on into it though, I would like to remind you that the best way to support this podcast is to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast listening platform. That increases the visibility of Wikipedia in amongst literally thousands of other podcasts out there. So more people get to hear from the guests that I have on the show, like Kelsey Johnston. All right, team, enjoy this conversation. So am I, and I have to say, there's nothing more delightful than going anywhere in the world and being able to use your gym membership. Like, I have saved myself truckloads of money doing that.
Yes, I totally agree with that. That's why we continue to have it. Even though we have our garage gym, we have the anytime because it's just for travel.
And so a couple of things, actually. And just so you know, I have hit record and we'll jump on into the questions. I have a list of questions. We might get to 3 of them or something, to see where this sort of goes. But a couple of things on that. One, I don't know that I've seen a more kitted out gym than the one that you guys have. And I just bloody love it. I'm like, man, that looks awesome. Imagine having that space. And 2, I love your social media account. I love how you share your life with your followers, and you share the principles of your life and fitness and health, but in such a balanced way, to the fact that when you do travel, of course you go to the gym because it is sort of part of what makes, you enjoy life a little bit more. So I love that about you and your account.
Yeah. And it's when we go on vacation, I like to go to different gyms too. And you meet different people and they have different equipment, and it's hey, I'm eating really good foods. I can grow some muscle. That's all. That's what I want. It's just gosh, I enjoy myself, and it's I don't restrict, and it's just I enjoy working out. And we don't even my workouts take way longer at home. You're kind of more dialed in and everything, but when we go, it's just gosh, I do 4 exercises, 5 exercises, 2 sets, and give it my all. And it's just I love it. It feels good. You feel good, to move your body, not just sit around. So yeah, we enjoy that. So
what I love about what you've just said, it's an opportunity to build muscle because you've got the extra fuel on board. Has that been a shift for you, Kelsey, over your fitness journey? So, and just to back up the truck a little bit, one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you is, as I said, love your social media account. And I love seeing the evolution of people as they move through stages, as we all do, in terms of our relationship with training, ourselves, our food, and things like that. And you've been super open about that. And I love how you put your messages out there in a way that just, I guess, opens up people to exploring other ideas of doing things. So often women chase fitness and health as a means of getting skinny and getting smaller, whereas you're very good about going, yes, it was Christmas, use that fuel, put it to good use. Has that always been the way for you? Do you want to chat to us about your sort of evolution in that space?
Right. Yeah. So like definitely not. Like when I first started like in my fitness, it was burning calories, sweating. I would like, because I have my Fitness Pal and I've had that for years. And it's like, I look back at those entries and it's just like, I would have soda, but then I was also like trying to eat 200 grams of protein and I was trying to lose weight. And it was more about like kind of doing these like circuit trainings. And then eventually I moved into the weightlifting because like I had such like back problems. So then it's just like the lifting weights, like, I had to take breaks while I vacuumed my house because of my lower back pain. So that kind of introduced me to weightlifting actually. And obviously now I have no issues, but like with like wanting the scale to go down, but then every Sunday was cheat day. And I'm just like, what the heck? Why am I not losing weight? Like I just couldn't understand what was going on. It's just like, I'm eating so good throughout the week. I'm eating 200 grams of protein. I was limiting all these foods and then it's just like, I just didn't understand. And I was so like data driven. Like I would be like, okay, my first meal was here. My last meal was here. I did how much of cardio, like very super strict and, particular on every little thing. Like, okay, if I drink coffee creamer, am I breaking a fast? Like I would just be searching up all of these things and really like in the grand scheme of it, it doesn't really matter. It's just like now what I know, it's just like all of that stuff that I used to do. It was just like so muddled in every little thing that it's just like, okay, the reason why I'm not getting to point A to point B is because it's just like, I have to be in a calorie deficit daily, including weekends. And then it's like, get out of that. Like, why am I used to spend like 4 months, 6 months dieting and then go up into a surplus for 2 months just to go back down.
Yeah. What you're describing with regards to your own experiences, when you have clients come to you, do you recognize some of those sort of traits in them?
Yes, for sure. Like restricting certain foods, like saying they eat a lot of protein, saying that they're like moving a lot, but then like once they start, it's just like, okay, you had 4K steps in a day. That's really not that much movement. And, they're very focused on like burning a lot of calories during their workouts and like, all those things, and doing like 20 million exercises. And then it's just like, and it's always like all or nothing, it's just like they're either in or they're not, and it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way,
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Like I talk a lot about how people seem to be like, for some people, they're all either on a diet or they're so far off a diet, it's not even funny. And that's sort of the art of practicing maintenance where almost never, they never get that opportunity to sort of do it because of the information that they sort of glean on social media or that they're getting from wherever they're getting it from. They're not really learning the skills, I think, associated with actually maintaining healthy weight. And I know that or at least from what I see from the information that you share, you're very good at sort of giving people the opportunity to sort of practice those behaviors that are necessary.
100%. Like a lot of the time, like I will start clients in fat loss kind of depending on their application, but like a lot of the time we do maintenance first because it's just like they have been restricting like the whole entire year, the last year, kind of up and down yo-yo dieting. It's just like, let's eat at maintenance. Let's allow you to have an untracked meal every week that like you don't track. You go to dinner with friends or with your husband or your kids and not have to worry about it. Like the only thing you have to worry about is like listening to your body. which we don't do when we macro track. Like we track and we clean our plates because we have tracked that. Right. So it's really hard to get away from that because it's just like, you don't need to clean your plate. You don't have to overeat like what your body's trying to tell you. And it's just like, I work on a lot of those things, like, especially like slowing down when you're eating, like taking breaks, even like some of the like small things, like I have, a client that struggles with like eating a meal and then still eating more after because she's so hungry. And it's just like, what are you eating first? It's just like, even sometimes it's just like, why don't you focus on the veggies? Because that can kind of bring your blood glucose down a little bit. Like there's so like, you can get really, really detailed with things, but sometimes it's just like, and I mean, she's been with me for 2 years, but like when we first start, it's kind of like, let's just allow you, like, you start a diet and you're like, I'm not going to have chips. I'm not going to have, any chocolate. I'm not going to have, XYZ. And it's like, how about let's incorporate some of your favorite foods, eat it daily in maintenance, and like I had a client, she wanted fat loss. We started in maintenance and she's just like, can I have like 2 more weeks at maintenance before we start fat loss? I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. Like, that's great. And like, she was very scared. Like I have gotten her carbs up like almost 100 grams from what she started at. And like her weight has went up 1 pound. On average. And it's just like, they probably would have been scared and just like, went back and, reduced their food. And it's just like, you gotta let it just do its thing.
Yeah. And to your point as well, I imagine, because I see this a bit as well, like people come in there and they are sort of on a diet wanting fat loss, but they're clearly they're there for a reason, because whatever they're doing isn't working. And maybe they are doing the weekday diet, weekend sort of binging, which they're not aware of, that's in fact what they're doing. So being at maintenance for some people will actually bring their calories down to a point where they may in fact lose weight at their sort of determined maintenance, because they were eating in a surplus before coming to see you without even realizing it.
Right. Yeah. Like, like what they were doing before, it was just like such a high, like a surplus on the weekends that it just kind of evened out during the week. And then it's just like, now they have like a normal intake, and what I use with my clients with untracked meals, like we input a placeholder, you are replacing a meal, but the placeholder is a decent amount of food, because it's like, we want to take an account of like, if you're going to a restaurant, that there's, butter, oils, all the things, like they have to make it taste good, right? That it's not going to be a 300 calorie meal. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yes, we're taking an account of that, but then it's just like, they understand like, hey, I can like enjoy, maybe I don't get like my, 100 grams of carbs, for between meals 1 and 2, maybe it's a little bit lower just so I can have some extra food for dinner. It's kind of like you still have to balance that day out in a way. And personally, for me, if I have untracked meals, I don't even track that day. I just have my normal meals. I do try to increase fiber because it's just like digestion is a really big thing for me. On meals, like when you're eating out, like fiber gets lower and then you don't digest well. And then the scale weight is up and it's just like, okay, like, let's figure that out, because it's just like, your scale weight's going to go up with meals out too. Cause it's just like, it's a heavier meal, more salt. Like I know we had Christmas party on Saturday and I was so thirsty. Like I was so thirsty. And it's just like, my weight went up the next day. And it's just like, yeah, there was probably a lot of sodium, a lot of salt, all the things. And it's just like, you don't have to freak out because the scale went up. It's just like, you kind of have to logically think like, what's going on in your body, right?
Yeah, 100%. So firstly, can you describe to people what a placeholder is? Because I bet you people are listening to that going, what is she even talking about? For people who want to track calories, like how do you use them and what are you talking about?
Yeah, so a placeholder would be like, I mean, I use my Fitness Pal and it's like a quick ad. So it's just like, hey, we're going to, say that you are at, 200 grams of carbs and you're at 50 fat and 150 protein or something like that. I'm going to save, a placeholder of calories for that untracked meal. So that usually will look anywhere between like 20-ish grams of fat for that meal. If you're at 200 grams of carbs, maybe it's going to be like 80 to 100 grams of carbs for that meal. And then usually I kind of stick with like 30 to 40 grams of protein, because usually it's just like you probably get roughly maybe a serving, even if you get pizza, because cheese has protein. You're just saving an amount of calories for that. So if the placeholder is like 20 fat, 80 carb, 30 protein, you add that as a quick ad in like my Fitness Pal has the quick ad option. I don't know about other apps, but like you're entering, like I have clients like add that in, like if they're having an untracked meal on Saturday, they add that in. Now they see their leftover macros of what they can eat throughout the day. And I've had it where like clients, like they do that, then they input breakfast and then, they might have like a smaller lunch and then they have their placeholder. And then it's like, oh, well, they'll come to me and be like, Kelsey, I have, 5 fat, 20 carb and 40 protein left, but I'm not hungry. And I'm like, you don't eat.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, because I had one client, she's like, yeah, I forced myself to drink a protein shake and I felt like crap. And I'm like, girl, don't do that, because it's just like you got to listen to your body. It's okay if you had leftover macros. Like it's truly just holding a set amount of calories for that meal out. And you just kind of, almost force yourself to intuitively eat after that meal, because I have clients that do a brunch, and that's maybe really different because it's like, okay, you have like the next 8 hours before you go to bed. What do you do? And it's just like the placeholder is nice for that. So, yeah, I mean, when people are like strictly macro trackers, including myself, intuitive eating is hard for them, because they're like, well, I'm just supposed to eat at this time and I'm supposed to eat this much,
I know, no, totally. And you know what? Like I feel, and you'll be similar in that, when you've macro tracked for however long, you just that it's less intuitive eating and it's sort of it's informed eating, right? Like even if you're not tracking, you sort of have a sense of what it is. And this is what you're trying to teach your clients, like to sort of tune into their body, but also have the confidence that they've actually got enough allocated for that particular meal, so they don't have to catastrophize that they're going out, and because they've already sort of thought in advance. Like, and these are skills, and I'm not sure how you feel about this, Kelsey, but I feel like sometimes people come at macro tracking like they feel like they should already intuitively know what to do, like that actually this should be relatively easy. Surely it's just a matter of adding these numbers up, but it is really a skill that people develop in addition to listening to how they're responding to it.
Yes. I mean, and I see it with like clients a lot. Like I have one client and she's been with me 4 years. And I told her, I was just like, hey, your bottle of Fairlife protein shake and a cup of raspberries is not breakfast, because she struggles to get in her food, but then she struggles, like all of a sudden she's just eating all of the popcorn and all of the goldfish at the end of the night. I'm like, have substantial meals, like almost just like think back to when you were young and it's just like you might have had eggs with toast and bacon, maybe it's like just like having fats, carbs, and protein at every meal. I personally don't love snacks for clients because it's just like, one, you want to give your digestion a break, and it's just like, also just like, don't you want to just have a bigger meal? Like I would rather have like just a bigger meal, instead of having like 200 calorie meals, 6 times a day. But that's just me. But like, yeah, like definitely kind of like we view macros like, oh, I can, track my calories. And it's just like, yeah, but you got to hit some numbers. The macros are very important. Calories, yeah, can determine your weight, but like what happens with your body, building muscle and all that stuff is really, macros. And like with the FDA, especially here in the United States, like how they label foods, like removing the dietary fiber, like they have those 40-calorie tortilla wraps, and it's just like they have 15 grams of fiber in one thing, and it's just like it's really not 40 calories. And like trying to explain all that stuff is just like so hard. And it's like, and a lot of the time it's just like my clients, they're like, I'm bloated, and it's just like they're eating a lot of those like high fiber, low carb tortillas, and it's just like that's what's doing it. Like I'm super against those. So
yeah, no, I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah, like people rely too much on that sort of information and then the net carbs thing, like this is only 2 grams of carbs. It's like, well, actually, if you look at the label, all of those sugar alcohols, the fiber, like they've sort of removed from it. Like it's interesting how the industry sort of plays on that to align with certain diet trends, like something's high fiber or something's low carb.
And I mean, people buy them. People buy them because they're labeled that way, and it's like there is some truth to how they label it where, yeah, those sugar alcohols, the dietary fiber is, like in our bodies, it's digested differently. But it's like I listened to someone and they said you can probably say if it's 15 grams of fiber, probably half of that is actually digested and half is not. So it's just like, but still, like if you want to be consistent with this whole thing, like just track everything, not the net carbs,
Yeah. Kelsey, where in your, because I've seen many, like I think I've maybe followed you for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something. And I'm really interested to know what was, when you had that sort of transition of thought in and around weight training, did your feelings around food change at that time as well? Who were your sort of influences in that? Who sort of helped you change?
Are you saying like what made me get into more weight training?
Or more about not just weight training, but sort of how you feel about food as well. Like who were your sort of mentors in that space that sort of helped you sort of evolve your thinking?
Yeah. So I was like, when I first little baby Kelsey, like in the weight room, like I was coached by Bob. And he very much taught like fueling your body for like lifting weights kind of thing. Like making sure you're eating something before you're lifting. And like I mean, when I started weight training, like I would, because I was working full time, I started work at 6 a.m. I was waking up at 4 a.m. and getting my lift in. The only thing is just like, I wasn't eating anything. I was going downstairs in my basement, lifting weights, would go to work, and I would not eat until 1 p.m. Yeah, because like I was really huge on fasting too, but it's just like that wasn't really, it was counterproductive to my goals at that time, which I didn't know. But then like eventually like I changed my training to evenings. And then like all of a sudden like COVID happened, and then it was just like we were working from home. So then I like was having a really hard time like forcing myself to eat something before like working out because I've never done it. It was new, it was uncomfortable. And I literally just started with a banana. Then it became 2 pieces of toast with a little bit of like powdered peanut butter on it. And then now it's my new creation of my normal pre-workout meal, which is now like sourdough, and it's protein and bananas and honey and all that. Like sometimes one of the biggest meals in my day is my pre-workout meal. And it's just like knowing that this food that I'm eating is going to fuel my workouts. I get stronger. It's going to repair the muscle. Like that's like probably one of the best feelings, like being super excited to lift and like eat food to be able to perform really good, but also let you just like feel good, because it's just like I used to just hoard all of my calories at night, and it's just like I'm just sitting around. Like they're yes, they're doing something in my body, but it's just like to be able to like, and even my post-workout meal, it's a very large meal. And it's just like now it's replenishing and it's just like it's building the muscle. And it's just like, and like I mean, ever since I've done that, like my body recomposition has like changed. Like I can definitely eat way more than I used to with prioritizing like, half of my carbs. Like if I'm at 200 grams of carbs, 100 grams are going around my workout. Like, yeah, it does suck. Yeah, it does. It sucks, but it's just like, it does. I feel like it helps your body composition. And I stress that a lot with clients. So
yeah, and you're so like, I love how you share your journey and the before and after pictures on social media, but not just for you, but your clients as well who have been, and you can see how their body composition shifts over the years. And I think this is what people just need, that evidence, don't they, Kelsey? Like particularly, and I wonder about this now actually with that sort of the rise of the GLP-1 era, where we're now seeing people being transformed, but just to tiny like celebrities and whatnot, the rise of the skinny, which is something that I feel like we sort of left behind even not that many years ago. And maybe it is only in the bubble that I exist on social media where we're much more about strength and being strong rather than being like tiny. But to see to see that you've got clients and yourself, you're eating more, you're lifting heavy, you're looking amazing. People need that kind of evidence, which is why it's great that you like share that.
Yeah. And I know like I have clients that are like, very much like they want to lose weight, but then they're also like, I want to be your client because like your clients eat so many carbs and like you get their carbs up so high and like you have food freedom. Like you don't say no good or bad foods, which is all true. And like, yes, like I've had some clients where it's just like, I have a lady that's like, she's a grandma, she's 60 years old and she's eating almost 300 grams of carbs. I would have never known that. I just tested waters, but then I also like, and it's like, I share those wins because it's just like, now it doesn't happen with everyone. That's the thing. It's just like, I have clients that are the complete opposite. Like we're in maintenance and they have to be very, very strict with their calories because if they have more than one meal off plan, their weight starts going up. And it's just like, all depends on the person. Like some people's maintenance calories are not like this flexible thing or this big range. Some of them are very small range, and it's just like part of it, it's just genetics. Everyone's different, and it's like, for me, it's just like, I always test upper limit of maintenance calories. And I'm just like, okay, it's been like a couple weeks. Let's just like push the carbs up a little bit, and it's just like, they trust me and they just follow. And it's just like, and I've had to pull back clients' food because it's just like, okay, it's your weight is going up too fast that we know it's not muscle because muscle unfortunately takes a very long time to build, that it's just like, let's just kind of backtrack. And like their weight starts to settle down, and it's just like, and the fact that we have the flexibility to do that, like, oh, let's just pull back food and like your weight starts to come down and like level off. It's kind of like a blessing and we should be grateful for it,
I agree. I totally agree. And I think this is the beauty of having a coach, is that if you're doing it yourself, you would just wouldn't have the confidence to push it, because any decision you make with food and training can always be changed. Like nothing is set in stone. Like it's not like, if you lift your calories, you're going to have to, you have to keep them there and, continue to, yeah, 100%. What I love is how you have, in what you've just said, is that you've been able to be more flexible with your calories, and you've seen it a lot in people because of the growth of muscle, because of that sort of flexible mindset with food, and that you're building that flexible metabolism. Now, Kelsey, I'm sure a few years ago you shared how your blood sugar actually started being elevated. I believe it was through a bill, but of course you can correct me, which again was really like, because you share a lot on social media, like you're able to sort of like talk through like what you found and what has helped you. Like, can you just sort of describe that whole process? Because again, this is why coaching is so valuable, because you get these insights.
Yeah. So that was like my first true building phase. Now I will preface and say that I was still struggling with my binge eating during that building phase. Yeah. So like, I mean, it didn't matter. I could be at 1,600 calories. I could be at 2,500 calories. I was still binging. It wasn't the food intake. It was my mindset. It was my relationship with food. All those things. I was not in a good relationship, all the things. So then eventually, obviously, I got into like therapy, which really, really helped. I did that for a year, worked on my sleep, worked on my stress, broke up with the boyfriend. But yeah, like, so my first building phase, I was still like hoarding still a lot of calories at night, in fear of like, I'm going to binge eat at night, even though I still would. So I would get yearly checkups done with my doctor, right? And I kind of noticed like in my family, there is, what is that called? The blood glucose sensitivity, like diabetes. Oh, it was like type 1 diabetes. So I was having pre-diabetic readings. So my older coach, Bob, was just like, hey, take your blood glucose and see what's it at in the morning. 120, 130, very, very high, right? And then I was even testing it like 3 hours after a meal, right before your next meal, and it would still be high. So there was some kind of like, and blood glucose could be caused from stress, the types of foods. So at that point, I had to lower macros, go into basically a mini cut, which I still had untracked meals in. And I was able to lower it alongside of, at that time, Morphogen had Prime, which now is continued. Prime is kind of the main source of like helping glucose levels. And so I still take that. And like, I just think with like, so now my blood work is super good. Like it was probably like, I would say 6 weeks ago, I had a meal. It was like 4:30. And then I had my blood work done at like 6:30 at night. And I think my blood glucose was like 70.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and like they know that I don't fast for them. That's for my TRT for the blood work. So it's just like funny to see. I'm like 70 at 6:00 at night when I've eaten like 3 meals, right? I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's awesome. But it's just like, like not hurting calories. Like I do mostly whole foods, but I do have a good amount of fun foods in there. I've been trying to clean that up a little bit just because like, next month I'm going to go into my bikini prep competition. So I'm trying to like slowly kind of get away from like, some of my processed foods. But yeah, like basically just like focusing on eating good throughout the day. And then obviously bringing down fat on your body can help, the pre-diabetic readings, your blood glucose. But there is that, what is it called? Where the dawn effect in the morning. So like I've actually had one client where, like she was testing her blood glucose in the morning. I'm like, okay, let's just switch to like right before your next meal, 3 hours after your last. And that's can sometimes be a better reading if people are having the dawn effects, because it's just like you wake up, instant cortisol stress hormone goes up because you're trying to wake up, right? Some people will have, readings like that. And sometimes it's just like, wait an hour after you wake up, you've kind of calmed down, you had some water, like then test, so it's just like, it's very different depending on the person. But like, yeah, mine has been good for like years. And I still test every Saturday. Like my coach makes me test my blood glucose. I'm even like sending now another thing that I haven't ever sent to like a coach is like, my heart rate. So like my average heart rate and like my lowest, because I know like when you're adding more food, your heart rate can kind of go up because it's just like your body's working more, right? And it's stayed pretty good. You know, it's just like with how much she's increased me, you know, like there was like that Monday when I had a check in, it was like 3 weeks ago. All of a sudden she increased by 100 grams of carbs. I'm like,
where am I going to fit them in?
yeah, I need to go to the grocery store.
yeah.
You know, it's just like, I'm not used to that because personally, like if I'm coaching myself, it's like 20 grams I'll add of carbs, you know, I'll do that, sit there for 2 weeks. Okay, another 20 grams. You know, usually we cap out on protein, and then the fats I don't like to get too much because personally my body does really good on carbs. I don't need a ton of fats. I perform better, all the things. So it was definitely interesting to, like having a coach right now, and it's just like plus 100 grams. It's like, all right, let's do this.
And you know what, Kel, I love that, coaches need coaches. And I think the same as well, like, because, and you learn a lot from, the people above you, and also your experience with your blood sugar has then allowed you to cue into this as a potential issue for any of your clients. So you sort of, I think this is why it's so valuable to actually sort of, walk the walk as well as talk the talk. You're sort of like putting into practice, the principles into seeing how they sort of wash out with you. Now, you mentioned Morphogen. That's a supplement, obviously.
Yes, Morphogen Nutrition. Yep.
Yeah. And do they do digestive supplements as well? Like, are you like,
oh, yes. Like everything is backed by like all science-based, third-party tested. Like Ben, the owner of Morphogen, is literally like the smartest person I've ever met. Like, I mean, all of their supplements are just like top tier, there's no proprietary blends. Like, it's just like, it helps. There's so many good supplements that they have. And it just sucks because I don't think like everybody can get them, but yeah.
I see on your feed that you've got like a lot of clients mentioned that some of the ones they take, and I wouldn't be able to name them, but help with the cravings, help with their digestion. Because things like that are, it's really great to be able to utilize them if you are in a fat loss phase, or conversely, you're trying to build and trying to get in more food, and it's something that your digestive system isn't used to. Like, it's always really good to be able to lean on these things. So for people to know of different brands that are out there, I think is super helpful.
Yeah, like Burn, which is the appetite, and plus it does help with sleep. That helps really good. Like, and I start clients not even at a full dose of that. And I've had some clients where it's just like, I think a full dose is like 6 caps. And it's just like, sometimes it's just like, even in maintenance, because it's like, people do struggle. Like, I have clients that are on GLP-1s through their doctor just for those cravings, and they're in maintenance, Yeah,
interesting.
So, I mean, it's a thing that people struggle with. Not everybody does. And like, I know people would be really against, like, oh my gosh, how can you push to have your appetite lowered in maintenance? I'm like, yeah, but when they eat more, they gain weight. Like, that's just part of their genetics. And some people definitely need like I have one client that's on like a low dose of a GLP-1. And then when we start fat loss, it gets increased. The dosing gets increased. So her doctor and me are kind of on the same page, because my client goes back and forth between the two of us saying like, okay, my coach said this, and doctor's like, yep, that sounds good. And like, so it's just like interesting, but it's just like, some people can't get GLP-1s, or they don't want to do it. They don't want to take the shot or anything. And it's just like, this is a natural supplement. Everything is natural in these supplements. And it's like, even just doing like half of a dose and just see if that even just stops the food noise, stops the cravings. Because it's like you said, the whole skinny GLP-1 thing is the whole rage right now. And it's like, everybody wants to hop onto it. And it's just like, I suggest to like try other different sources before like jumping into that, because I've had a client where she's like, hey, I'm going to take a break for a couple months. I'm going on a GLP-1. She came back to me. She lost 10 pounds. The first 2 weeks, she gained 8 pounds.
And that's, I similarly have clients who have, gone on a GLP-1, lost significant weight, and then started freaking out because they'd sort of got to this point where if they lost any more, it would be, way too much weight. But they're not quite sure, like, how do I start eating again? And like, this is a real phenomenon because they just followed that standard dosing pattern of you're at this dose and then we're going to increase it and then we're going to increase it. And like over time, she just had absolutely no appetite at all. And now she's like freaking out because she's like, well, once I start eating, then I'm just going to start gaining weight. And I mean, like that, and it's almost like an exaggerated form of a diet, right? When people go on whatever diet it is to lose weight, it's a pretty simple thing. You eat less, I mean, I say simple, I'm not saying it's easy, but like dieting is relatively simple. Keeping the weight off is the hard bit. So it's almost like an exaggerated form of that sort of dieting exercise, which effectively it is really not eating.
Right. And like, I always tell clients too, like as when I increase their macros after a cut, it's just like, it's normal for your weight to go up a little bit. Like I would say probably no more than 5 pounds, typically, but like, because every 1 gram of carb we eat, we hold on to 3 to 4 grams of water. So it's very normal if you were eating 130 grams of carbs and now you're at 230 grams, it's okay to weigh 2 pounds heavier. Like that's purely just glycogen. That's purely water in your body. Like you're eating food, digesting food, like that's okay. We focus on the mirror versus always the scale. Too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard message for people to really hook into if it's not new to them, but if they haven't really framed it like that. Like I can't tell you the number of people I talk to, and because I have groups who I sort of run through fat loss programs with, and they're super excited by what they see in the mirror, and they're so delighted that their clothes are fitting. Then they jump on the scale and it's not reading as they feel it should, and it's almost like everything else doesn't matter. Like that, do you have conversations with your clients, Kelsey, about what the scale is actually like, what does progress really look like? Because I think this is where people get a little bit stuck too.
Oh, 100%. And the one thing, and I do it with myself too, like before I take like my check-in pictures and stuff like that, I don't weigh myself. I do all that and I'm like, gosh, I feel good. Like I feel great. Like my clothes are fitting, all the things, like I'm progressing in the gym. Like you almost just like mentally think about that stuff for like 2 or 3 minutes, go on the scale and it is what it is. And you just write it down. And I tell my clients, I'm like, literally just log it on your spreadsheet and be like, this is Kelsey's problem.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's good. How long, and then for you, like how long did it take I don't know if you can remember, like to the point where, I mean, obviously, and you share this as well, it's not like you're completely immune to what the scale says, but you're just far more objective now. Like how long do you have a sense does it take for people to get to that sort of point? Like, and what things do you do with them to allow them to do that? Is it like the daily weighing? Are you a fan of that?
Yeah, I do feel like the daily weigh-ins help because like if I only weighed in like, what was it, Sunday, I weighed in like 130. I don't know. I feel like as females, like I've been in the 120s for the last 6 months and then you see the 3 and you're like,
yeah.
Whoa, you know what I mean? And like my husband's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, because I'm like, well, you've been 207, 208, 209. Now you're in the 210s and 212s. Like, isn't that a big deal? Like, it's kind of like when you turn 40. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I feel like it must just be a female thing. But yeah, like I do feel like because like now my weight is back down into the 120s, right? It was one day. So if I only weighed in that one day and then maybe a day last week, I would be like, oh my gosh, I gained 3 pounds, and it's just like the weekly average really shows my true weight, because there's days that, we're stressed. There's days that we might not have a bowel movement. There's days that you might have more salt and sodium throughout the day. Leg days after leg day, weight can be spiked. Days that after, like for me, after I have a rest day, sometimes my weight is up. And like some of my clients are totally different. Like my husband will have a rest day. He could drop 5 pounds.
He does. I always laugh when you share his like scale, his sort of scale averages, and you show his scale. You've done it a few times where like, I think I've seen like incredible changes like day to day. I mean, he looks like he carries a lot of muscle. So I guess that's the reason why, right?
And that's the thing, is just like, he does carry a lot of muscle. So it's like, if he does have like a really big meal, like, me, smaller, I might be up a pound or two, where he might be up 4 or 5 because he's double of me. Right. And it's just like, I think I will say this, that like the scale is always going to be somewhat annoying. Like depending on where you are, because it's just like, even if you're in fat loss, you're going to see a new low, weigh in 5 days later, it might go up, and even if you're in maintenance, like you've had all these, like these next 2 weeks, Christmas, New Year's, your weight might be up for a little bit. Once those all go away, it's going to go down. So it's just like, I don't think it ever always gets like super easy where it's just like you can totally detach from the scale, but like it does get better, because like I tell my clients, and I'm like, you know what, you were up, you like, I have clients like all across the board. They come back from vacation. I have some clients that lose weight because they're not eating enough on vacation. Like, they just are busy. And then I have some clients where it's like, they're gone for a week and they're up 10 pounds. And it's like, it's okay. Like, we just move on. Right. But I think like one thing that really helps is weighing in daily, to see those weekly averages. And just like, I tell my clients this, and myself, because I'm like, I know the 130s are coming. I'm like, I know I'm going to get into the 130s eventually. And I'm like, once it happens, I'm going to be like annoyed for 5 minutes and then move on. And I'm not going to do anything with my macros. I'm not going to change my calories because I'm more on the scale. Like, we don't do that.
Yeah. And you've been like, you've been through some builds over the time, over the years where you've really had to let go of, or try really hard to let go of the idea that it's going up, or actually see that that's actually the goal. And I think you're really good about sharing even if it's a little bit of self-talk, like, the scale is going up because I am building muscle, and it might be a bit of fat gain as well, but it's all for this end sort of purpose. And that's a real challenge as well.
Oh yeah, because like my lowest scale weight, like since I've had my Bluetooth scale, my lowest weigh-in has been 118, and I've gotten up to 143. So it's just like, that's a big, that's like almost, 30 some pounds of a difference. And my last building phase, which was a year and a half, I had to sit there and look at even my weekly averages, they would go up every single week. And I had to continue to eat and continue to, get stronger. And that's what I focused on. I didn't always focus on the scale. I focused on like, gosh, I get to have so much food freedom. I get to be super strong. I get to have, meals out with my family. Fat loss is always there. I know I can lose weight. It's always there. It's really, really hard to build muscle. So it's just like, when people are like, yeah, I went in a 3-month building phase, it's time to cut. It's like, you didn't build nothing.
Yeah, it does take significant time to gain that muscle, right?
Yep. So I normally always suggest like at least, I would say minimum 9 months of like feeding yourself in maintenance and a little bit above. Like, I know I don't suggest surpluses for everybody, but even like sometimes just doing maintenance, like on rest days, and then just that little bit of surplus, like on training days, it can really benefit you. And even if your weight doesn't even go up that much, I think that's better than, like being in an uncomfortable surplus. They're definitely not for everybody.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, for sure. And Kelsey, like obviously it helps that your husband, and I only know him as KC because I'm sure that you, is he's totally on this, like on the same, he appears to be on the absolute same page as you. I mean, you coach him, am I right about that?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And like having that in-person support of someone around you is just so helpful for whatever you're doing, fat loss, maintenance. I'm a runner, having someone else do the run program with you, like having that support. Do you have clients who struggle in that arena of having people around them that are sort of on the same path or appreciate what they're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I have both. Like I have my one client where it's like her husband's just like, "Oh, you're on another diet again." And like he gets very discouraged, and like she actually just told me last week, she's like, "Now my husband's doing the keto diet." And like we're kind of like, I'm kind of the opposite of that. Like we like carbs here. And so it's just like, it's funny because she was like, she had the rolling eye emoji. Like, she gets some like backfire a little bit from her husband here and there. She handles it well. I have some clients where it's just like their husbands, like they order pizza and they do all this and they have to be like, it's very tempting. They have more temptations, so kind of like working through that. And like, to be honest, when like clients have like family, it's just like the holidays and stuff, family members will say stuff like, I've even had it like my sister-in-law, she's like, "Oh, Kelsey, you can't have any of the cake because it has no protein in it." I'm sure she's kidding, it's just like, but it's just like, if you only knew the amount of cookies that I have in my freezer right now,
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sure they're kidding, but it's just like, it can be hard, like living with someone that isn't really on the same page. So definitely having my husband the way he is makes it very, very easy.
Yeah, totally. And I guess this is what, a lot of people push back on, they push back on social media as, as always being a negative thing. But if you can have that community within your sort of, within that online space as well, like I know that people find that super helpful because you're not feeling like you're in it yourself and you're doing it alone and things like that.
Oh yeah. And like, I always like tell my clients and I'm like, if you ever have questions or you're struggling with something and it's not your check-in, just email me, just send me a DM on Instagram. I don't care. Like you don't have to feel alone in anything, or if something upset you or this happened or whatever, like just tell me. And sometimes they're just like, "Hey, I just need a vent." And I'm like, "Vent. Just go for it," and it's just like, because they do sometimes feel lonely, and like, I totally get that because like I've gone through other things, like personal things where it's like been really hard, and like having a coach there. And it's just like, it's not even about nutrition or training or anything like that. It's all about other stuff. And it's just like, like, yeah, sometimes as a coach, we kind of feel a little bit like a therapist, but it's just like but it's life, like, you can't just be so like fitness 24/7. Like you still have to live your life. So it's just like the therapy part of it is just included.
Yeah, no, I exactly the same, right? Like it's you can't silo off those parts of your life, really. Like, and I often say, and we chat amongst my sort of practitioner friends, that it's never about the food. Like anyone that's got anything, it's almost never about the food. It's always something else, and that I find is actually a bit of a challenge of a message for some people to hear, because food, for all sort of intents and purposes, could be an easy fix. Like if I just fix this thing, then this is going to be the thing that allows me to. But if there's some underlying stressor, if there's an underlying relationship that's having issues, or things going on at work, or whatever it is that's driving someone to eat the foods that they eat, then long-term success comes from actually fixing those underlying things. But people don't love hearing that, because that's just that's sometimes it's a harder thing to fix, right?
Yeah. And like I actually had a check-in today where it's just like, this client, like her marriage has been kind of like up and down. I've had clients where they're getting a divorce, I've had clients where their dad passed away, and like she did say, she's like, I did have some like cravings, some bites, licks, and tastes. I ate some food emotionally, and I'm like, you know what happens? It's okay. Let me know if it worked. Did eating all the yucky food because your digestion's now off and you don't feel the best, it probably didn't solve the issue. So we kind of like talk about that. Like coaching people, like just think about like, okay, how they tell me how much to eat, they tell me what my training should be, how many steps I should get, etc. But it's just like I don't just email my clients and be like, good job, let's keep everything the same. Like I am talking like how I'm talking right now. Like I record my voice, I go through their check-in, I tell them this is probably what's happening because of these choices that you made. And then we make changes if needed, So it's just like, I never understood like people that have coaches where it's just like, looks good, we'll talk next week. It's like, what?
Yeah. And it's a two-way street as well, right? Like if the only information you get from your client is macros, then you can almost not even say anything. It's like, well, I mean, this is sort of meaningless really, because you haven't really given me that story.
We build a relationship pretty much. And like, I start to get to know them better. And it's just like, I know all their kids' names now and their husbands' names and like all that stuff. And it's just like, it takes time to build that relationship, but it's just like, I've never been a coach where it's just like, cause I write everything down, I'm really, really good about like writing, like even just the smallest things that they say, so.
Yeah. And of course you've recently made a shift to coaching full-time from after working at the prison for however many years you were there. Like, was that a big move for you, Kelsey?
12 years.
Oh,
yep.
wow.
I loved that job.
Yeah. It's a hard decision to make, isn't it?
Yeah, it was not a bad job. I enjoyed it. Because like fitness can kind of, it's exhausting. I do love it and enjoy it, but sometimes you just kind of want that mental switch of a break. And it's just like being in a prison where it's just like, I didn't have access to my phone. I just had to work. Like I enjoyed that, but it was just like, my passion is fitness. The first week was so weird because I'm like, what do I do? Because it's just like I had so much extra time. But now I've added a ton more clients since then. So it's like I am busier, which is good. And I have my weekends back, because I was working on the weekends and then I was working 50 hours at the prison and it was a lot, but like I definitely don't regret it. Now I'm saying this like 6 months later and it's just like, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, that's nice. And then Kelsey, just I'm mindful of the time, but just a couple of other questions I just want to ask you about. Like you've got a large social media following, and have you always been really natural at sort of sharing things, or is something that you've sort of built up? And is there are there things which you sort of hesitate before you share because of that?
Yeah. So like naturally, like when I first started it, I didn't share as much as I do now. As I built like sharing food, sharing your workouts, sharing like what kind of journey are you in, fat loss? Am I in maintenance? Am I in a building phase? Sharing like my child, sharing my husband, like my family, people look at you like a human, and I think like, I will say that I share like, I follow some people and I'm just like, gosh, I share a lot. Like there's a lot of people that don't share their weigh-ins, don't share every single meal that they eat or what they might go through or struggles they might have. Or, like I kind of do that weekly check-in every Saturday, kind of updating my weight trends, my blood glucose, what's my body looking like, how's my training going? Like, I share that every single week. And like, there are certain things where it's just like, there's certain times where I want to like hold back and not share things. Like, it's just like, cause it's just like, if I have an untracked meal and it's just like, or like Saturday was my Christmas dinner. I ended up having 2 plates. I had a plate and then I went back for seconds and it's just like, I'm going to share that. because it's just like, it's okay to do that.
It makes it relatable. Yeah. Do you get like pushback from anyone on what you share or how you sort of approach it?
Typically not too much. I did have the question yesterday because Saturday night we came home and we had like one of those big butcher shop baked cookies. Me and my husband split one, and then we're like, we're going to have some of these sugar cookies that we have. And we just like eat whatever we want. Like, okay, give me a couple of these. I want to try these. And then I had like a bunch of people message me and they're like, how many did you eat?
Yeah.
I'm like, I think like maybe including the large cookie, I think maybe like 6 or 7. And it's just like, I actually go on TikTok on my Saturday nights and like film and show everything that like I'm eating to show like, yeah, it's not that I don't eat, or it's like, I know people on Instagram that take pictures of food and then they throw them out. Yeah, like and they have actually told me like they struggle with like disordered eating and stuff. And it's just like, I don't have to like prove myself that I'm eating it, but it's just like, it's okay to have more than one cookie if you want to.
And I think that's the real life aspect of what makes following your account so enjoyable, because even if, and you've asked several times, like, are you guys still like, are you bored yet with seeing what I eat every day? Because literally it's the same thing every day. But I think people like, they like that continuity. They, we all sort of like routine, and it's nice to see other people have routine as well, but to then step out of the routine. And I think for you, Kelsey, part of your routine is actually having those moments when you do have 6 cookies, or you guys go away for a week and you're on vacation, you're having, some sort of like, I don't know, Long Island or whatever that iced tea drink is that you love. Yeah. And I think that makes it's relatable, and it makes people appreciate that they don't have to stop living their lives just because they've got body composition goals. And actually, instead of thinking about that really like being smaller on the scale, they're thinking about sort of building that flexibility to not really to actually have your cake and eat it too. And I think that's what you share really well.
Yeah. Well, and I always see on Instagram too, or social media in general, that it's just like, just so you know, the first cookie tastes just like the second cookie. And it's like, yeah, and I want to have that second cookie. Thank you very much.
That is hilarious. Kelsey, so are you taking clients right now, or have you got a full roster?
I am taking a couple. I've had like 4 applications in the last 2 days, so I'm waiting to hear back on a couple, but I did post on my social media that like come 2026, prices will be increasing. So I think a lot of people, like a couple people applied for that reason. But yeah, I am taking clients. Yeah.
Nice one. So if people are interested sort of moving forward, this will be coming out sort of mid-January. Where can they find you?
You mean like
on Instagram? Website? What's your handle on Instagram? Of course, I'm going to pop these in the show notes. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Instagram, Kelsey J Fit. TikTok is Kelsey J Fit. YouTube is Kelsey J Fit. Those are the main ones I use. I don't really use Facebook much. But yeah, definitely find me there. Send me a DM. Like I respond to pretty much all of my messages on there. So
I will say, for someone who has a large account, you are excellent at acknowledging messages, and it's something that I try to do as well, even though I've got half the number of followers. But it's because when I engage with someone who and then you're ghosted by them, you're sort of like, oh, it's a bit rude, really. But you're never like that. You're always so lovely at acknowledging people. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Nice one. Kelsey, thank you so much for your time this morning. I know it's really great just to sort of like chew over the coaching sort of ins and outs. People love conversations like this. So really great insight. So enjoy the rest of your day. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes, enjoy.
Alrighty, hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed doing it. I just love chatting to other practitioners in this space and getting their insights into topics which I think about all of the time, and it's so great to be able to sort of share those thoughts and glean more insights from other coaches. Next week on the pod team, I have my buddy Cliff returning for our little wrap-up of 25. Let's hear it for 2026 podcast. Looking forward to sharing that with you a little bit later, but that's fine because, we've both been on holiday. Until then, though, you can catch me over on Instagram, Threads, and X at Mikki Williden, Facebook at Mikki Williden Nutrition, or head to my website, mikkiwilliden.com, jump on the Mondays Matter tab and sign up to the waitlist because Accelerated 3.0 is opening next week. So if you want something fresh for 2026, that is what you are after. All right, team, you have the best week. See you later.